Hello everyone, and welcome once again to Caleb Likes Books. Today I have another book review for you, and that is for Isles of the Emberdark by Brandon Sanderson, the brand new Cosmere book that just came out this summer. This one, usually I don't get to new releases this quickly, especially for something like this that was released as one of the secret projects. But I was able to get access to this book through my library. I was able to listen to the audiobook, which was super cool. I did not expect them to get it so quickly, but I checked like a week or two after it came out, just checked what was popular in their fantasy section, and I saw this, and I was like, I need to listen to that. So that's what I did. And so it's brand new, super exciting, super excited to read it, and I really enjoyed this book. I don't know if it is my favorite of the secret projects, which on its own would make it one of my favorite Sanderson standalones, because my favorite standalone at the moment is Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, which is one of the secret projects. But I would say this one is definitely approaching the same level for me. I had a great time with this book. I really enjoyed it. So first things first, kind of the premise of this book, which is something I thought was really cool, is this book basically is two plot lines that the book is split into four parts. Part one is kind of setting up one plot line. Part two is setting up another plot line and continuing the first plot line a bit. And then parts 3 and 4, they converge in a really fun way. So first things first, you have the character Six of the Dusk. Now, if that sounds familiar to you, that's because this book is basically building on the foundation laid by the short story Six of the Dusk. And that short story is included in this novel as flashback chapters, which is super cool. And, it was a nice refresher for me. I read Six of the Dusk a while ago, but since I read it in Arcanum Unbounded with a bunch of other short fiction, my memory on it was a little bit fuzzy, so it was really nice to kind of get a refresher on that, and I really enjoyed that this time around. So the first part of this book, the setup for Six of the Dusk, is he is kind of part of like this more primitive culture that is very centered around things like hunting and things like that, not super technologically advanced. But within the flashbacks, their culture is approached by people from beyond their world, because this is taking place far in the future of the Cosmere. This is the furthest in the timeline that we have gotten so far. So this is like space age Cosmere. And people from these other worlds start interacting with people from his world and things like that. And so in the present day of the book, they are wanting to make agreements and deals with the people of his world, because his world has resources that they want, primarily being their birds, because they are very special and have special qualities to them. And so his kind of plot line is that he believes, because of some old myths and legends, that his people came through this place called the Emberdark, came to their world, and so he's thinking, well, maybe we can get back in there again, and maybe through doing that he will find some way to help his people. And so he ventures off into the Emberdark, and that is where he comes into contact with the second plot line, which is from the perspective of a character named Starling. Now, Starling is a dragon, but in this book, she is basically trapped in her human form, because in the Cosmere, dragons can be also in human form. She is trapped in her human form. And so she is basically in charge of this starship, once again, space age Cosmere, and with a crew who all have some debts that they need to pay, and so they are trying to figure out how to work things out, and they come across this thing that leads them to believe that there is something within the Emberdark that they can find, and will basically like this lost almost like treasure of sorts. It's kind of like a treasure hunt in some ways. Just this special thing that they need to find, and they think, oh, if we can find that, that will get us out of the situation we're in. So both of these characters end up in this region of the Emberdark and converge. Their plot lines converge in a really interesting way, and I really enjoyed that. So that's kind of the setup for this book, and I really liked the plot in this book. I think this is some of the best plotting in a Sanderson book, or at least some of the most enjoyable to me. I loved the plot of this book. I was always interested in seeing what was going to come next, seeing where things were going to go. This was just really fun to read in terms of just seeing where the story was headed, because it just did some really interesting things. I really enjoyed both of those setups, and the ways that they play off of each other once these two plot lines converge is really, really cool. On top of that, the other thing that I loved about this book is the world building. So the world building kind of comes in a couple of parts. You have the literal, actual world building of the places within this book, which are First of the Sun, the planet that Six of the Dusk is from, which is really cool, and I really enjoyed that. And then on top of that, you have the world building of the Emberdark. And so that all was really cool. It was really interesting and unique, and getting to see also the world building of this now being space age Cosmere. You have things like things that we have not yet really gotten to see very much coming more into the forefront. You have different types of technology. You have ways that the magic system, in fact, various magic systems of the Cosmere are interacting with said technology. And on top of that, with world building, you have just the large-scale world building of the Cosmere. This is probably, I would say, of all the Cosmere books I've read, and I've read at this point all of them except for The Sunlit Man and White Sand. Of all the ones I've read, this is probably the most interconnected Cosmere book I have read. It is the most large-scale in terms of how inclusive it is of the Cosmere. So it has so many references to other planets, other magic systems, different characters, and also just showing the state of the Cosmere during this period in time, which is really interesting and gives a lot of really cool hints of where things might be going. There are multiple points in this book where a place or a character is referenced, and they say, oh, this is going on with that. And at the point that we're at currently in the Cosmere, in terms of like the main kind of timeline we're at with like the Mistborn books and Stormlight Archive, we are nowhere near that point yet. And so it's like that something's going on there, but it's going to be a long time before we get to see what gets to that point. So it's a lot of really fun hints towards the future of the Cosmere, a lot of fun hints about where things could be going, and just things to be looking out for and all this stuff. And just as a big fan of the Cosmere, this was a super fun and rewarding book to read for that reason. Like, it's one of those books that you maybe could read it if you haven't read anything else. But if you have read a bunch of other stuff, I would say especially Stormlight Archive, Mistborn, and Tress of the Emerald Sea, I would say. If you have read those in addition to other Cosmere books, then it is going to be super fun and super rewarding for you. And I just really enjoyed that about this book. So had really good plotting, had really fun world building, both in terms of the just kind of traditional world building of, you know, the setting that the book takes place in, on top of also bringing in all the Cosmere stuff, which was just a lot of fun. And I think it was very well integrated into the book as well. One thing that I've seen criticized about other Cosmere books, I think particularly of things like Wind and Truth or The Lost Metal, is I have seen some people say it feels like it doesn't quite fit, it kind of comes out of nowhere, or things like that. I feel like it is so integrated into this story that it really works and it really fits, and I really enjoyed it in this book. So that I also really, really appreciated. The characters also were really well done. You have, like I said, Six of the Dusk as well as Starling. Both of them are fantastic characters, have really good character arcs. Of kind of the three core pillars of plot, characters, world building, usually Sanderson for me is strongest on the character front. That was probably the weakest aspect for this one in my opinion, but it was still very well done. I really enjoyed the character arcs these two went on. They definitely have big changes to the characters as they progress through the story. You know, you have Six of the Dusk, who kind of starts out very, like, not wanting to interact with people all that much and kind of keeping to himself, and kind of starts to become more cooperative with other people, starts to kind of come more into, you know, being like a person that is helping other people and doing things with other people and that kind of thing, like power of friendship, woohoo, that kind of thing in this book. And then you have the other character, Starling, who is kind of having a lot of self doubts, a lot of just this feeling of, she was exiled from the dragons, and that is why she is stuck in her human form. They put her in the human form because of that. And so her kind of trying to deal with that, come to terms with that, but also at the same time really wanting to be able to be in a dragon form and all these things. And that's kind of the driving force behind her character that's established early on. So really good character stuff, really good character arcs. All the other characters in here, there's several other characters, they're all really cool as well. I really enjoyed just all the characters in this book. There are also kind of tying into the world building. There are some really interesting types of characters that are shown in this book, characters from different places that we either haven't seen before, haven't seen very much of before, or are shown in very interesting ways. And I really enjoyed that about this book as well. So all of that, this review is going a little long, so I'm going to start wrapping things up here. As far as things that I didn't love quite so much, I do think the book had a somewhat weak ending, not terribly. The ending was still good, but it didn't feel to me as satisfying as the build up to it kind of felt like it was going. Like the rest of the book was amazing, and even the ending was still good, but it was like the ending just felt a little weak for how much I enjoyed the rest of the book. But even then, ending was still fine. It was just the weakest link within the book, in my opinion. So that's pretty much all I have to say about this one. I loved my time with this book, and it's one that I was thinking about holding off on until like the Tor hardcover comes out or whatever, but I was thinking, oh, I kind of want to read this now because I had been hearing people say good things about it, and I thought it'd be fun to read this really early on, and also because a couple of my friends are also big Sanderson fans, and I could read this before them, and I could hold that over their heads and be like, haha, I read this book before you. So there was also that aspect to it as well. But I really enjoyed this book. This is one of my favorite Sanderson standalones, definitely, I think, in the upper echelon of Cosmere books, in my opinion. So as far as a rating out of 10 that I'd give Isles of the Emberdark, I'd give it like a 9.5 out of 10. I had a great time with it. It's not necessarily like the best, the character stuff is really good. Not necessarily my favorite characters. The plot stuff is really good, but it is like one of the most entertaining Cosmere books to me. Like other ones had a bigger impact, like Mistborn or Stormlight or things like that, or even Yumi or Warbreaker had a much bigger impact for me as far as emotional impact, but this one was so much fun to read, and that really, really worked for me. Had a great time with this book anyway. So that's pretty much my thoughts on this one. Let me know in the comments if you have read Isles of the Emberdark, what you thought of it, if so, if you really liked it, if you didn't, how you think it compares to the other secret projects, whatever your thoughts, let me know down in the comments. So that's pretty much it for this one. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.